This is Real Life with Deb Waterbury, a real show for real people with real issues. And now, here's your host, Dr. Deb Waterbury.
Welcome to this episode of Real Life with Deb Waterbury. I'm here with Karen Wendling.
Hello.
We are in the second week of our resentment series, which is a tough one, especially to following the friendship series. Yeah. But it does naturally, because we are self-involved, we will tend to move toward resentment. And so last time, we talked about resenting others and what that looks like and how we can move out from underneath that. Mm-hmm. I feel like we need to spend a little bit of time talking about when we begin to resent God. And, I've had so many people who will not even admit this, that they resented God at some point. Mm-hmm. I think there's not a precedent set or even a premise set for resenting God. However, as humans, there may be levels of that, but I think we all, if we're honest with ourselves, will admit that at one time or other we resented, if not the being God, we resent what he's done or hasn't done.
Right.
And maybe that's a better way of putting that.
Yeah, what we feel he hasn't accomplished for us.
Right. And that can move into feeling like you resent the person of God. But the truth of the matter is, truly, I think it's that we tend to resent what we think he has done or has not done. Mm-hmm. The people that I talk to that are harboring these kinds of resentments toward God and are willing to talk about it, it's usually because he's taken something from them or he hasn't given them something. It's, it really is about sometimes thinking it's about what he hasn't done and what he has done. And so I often think about the fact that resenting God or resenting what he does or doesn't do comes from our lack of knowing him and our lack of understanding he's not man. He's not human. And we have a hard time with that. Yeah. We have a hard time because, we're going to start judging what we think God should do or should not do based upon human standpoints. Yeah. And we're doing that to a God, to God, who is not human, who created humanity. And when I try to get back to, it's kind of like, living on this tapestry, a beautiful tapestry rug, and you're a little small ant, and you're living in the tapestry. And in the tapestry, all those weaving threads and stuff, they don't look very pretty. I mean, you're just kind of crawling through them, and they look terrible because it's just a bunch of midge-patch of threads. Well, God's not down there with you and I. He's up above it, seeing the absolute gorgeous thing that this rug looks like. Right. But we're in it. So we're the stupid little ant in it, and we have no capacity for seeing what God sees because he's not in it with us. We have to recognize, I think, that at the very onset of this, that resenting God means you're trying to bring God down to your level. Right. And we have no business doing that. Yeah.
I think God has really big shoulders, and I think it's okay when we're going through trying times, like the loss of a loved one, when we've been abused or whatever, and we feel like God somehow has missed the boat, let us down, whatever. I feel like he has very big shoulders, and I feel like it's okay for you to feel that way. Yes. Because they're very real emotions, and he understands. Yes. He just doesn't want you to stay there. Right. That's where faith comes in. That's where trust comes in, knowing that he's got it. Just trust him. Yes. It's going to be okay in the end. This isn't fun. This doesn't look good, but I got you.
And it's all right to do that. Yeah. And I think that's a great point. So what we know is that all of us do. And, God can handle that. Yeah. It's okay. It comes from a misunderstanding of who God is. So what do we do, Karen? What is it that the believer does when he or she is in a season of resenting God or resenting his lack of or what he has done? What do we do?
I think you need to say it because you're feeling it. Right. I think you need to have a trusted friend that you can process it with. Right. And I feel like you need to be in the Word so that he can move you through it. Right.
And and there's a scripture that says about saying it. Psalm 142:2 says, "I pour out my complaint before him.
So good.
I tell my trouble to him or before him." So he's okay with you complaining. He's okay with you complaining about him. As a matter of fact, what you need to do and what David says in this psalm is, I'm going to go ahead and complain to you about you because I'm pouring out my complaint. The entire book of Habakkuk is Habakkuk going, what is going on here? Right. And it's an entire book of him complaining to God that the bad people are prospering and all the good people are suffering. Right. So he's pouring out his complaint. God didn't smite him because he did that. So you're right. You pour out. Psalm 17:1-3 says, "I cry aloud to God, and he will hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. My soul refuses to be comforted. When I remember God, I moan. When I meditate, my spirit faints. Now the psalmist right there is in deep resentment.
Yes.
He's like, when I think about God, I'm moaning, like I'm not even happy. Yeah. But I'm going to continue to stretch out. Yeah. It is a place of just not giving up and in resenting him in these terms. We know those things, but our heart tells us that we have to be angry. So the thing is not to give up, not to stop reaching out to him, and not to stop moving in your word.
Press in.
Press in, no matter how you're feeling, and lose the guilt over your resentment. Lose the idea that in the enemy, this is another lie straight from the pit of hell, that God has now rejected you because you've resented him. He is not man. You resent people, and you will reject someone who resents you. But God is not going to do that. God's not going to reject you because you resent him. He's God.
Right.
He knows what you feel before you say it anyway.
Right. You don't even have to speak it out of your mouth.
You don't have to speak it out of your mouth. And his love for you is everlasting. His love for you will not fail. He promised that. So you gotta hang on that. And I'm telling you, just keep pressing into the word. I've been through these times. I go through them all the time. But I go to God and say, what are you doing? Why? And you complain, yell at the ceiling, do what you need to do. Yeah. God can take it, like you just said. And the song, it's biblical. The psalmist said, I'm crying out to you. In the night, I cry out to you. I say your word, your name, and I'm moaning. So he's very upset with God. But the biblical stance here is you keep moving into him. This is, and I want you to be encouraged in this. We all move through these times. We all move through times of resenting what we think God should do or what he has done, and resenting him for that. Just move back to him. Move back toward him. Move into the word and understand that he will never reject you. No. And as a matter of fact, what he only wants for you is good and love, and has promised you that that's exactly what he's going to give you. He is not a God that lies. He is a God that only tells the truth, and he has promised you that it will work out for good. Good. He's promised you that. So just keep moving in him. It's hard. It's not complicated, but it's not easy. That's the way of the Bible, isn't it? And it's a way of being a Christian. God bless you. I pray that this encourages you, and that your life, just again becomes that constant moving into the God that adores your heir. No matter what your circumstances, they do not reflect his love if they're bad. I'm telling you, your circumstances are not a reflection. His love is constant despite those. God bless you.
Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Real Life with Deb Waterbury. I hope it's been a blessing to you as much as it was to me. If you want any of my books or information on articles or any of my speaking engagements, you can go to my website at debwaterbury.com. God bless you.